So this will take just a second to set up. While that's spinning up, I'm going to get GitHub ready as well, because I'm going to need to put my keys in. So I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to SSH and GPG. I'm going to say new key, and we'll call this Cloud9 demo. And now the very first thing we can do is we can create those SSH keys. So we'll say SSH, this is a one-time thing, SSH keygen -t RSA. All right, and let's go ahead and print that out here. There we go. Once I get this key, then I can start to build my my infrastructure. All right. So that looks like it was able to go. Perfect. And now I can just go to the repo that I had set up earlier, which I believe is DevOps. There we go. DevOps 2022. So this is basically a blank repo. There's nothing in it. I'm going to go through here, go to local, go to SSH, and copy this. And we can now do a git clone. Okay, so we got this repo ready to go here. And then I'll CD into it. Now for AWS, the best thing to do, again, is to create a Python virtual environment. It's slightly different than Ubuntu because it's a different version of Linux. We use the invocation python3-m space venv, and then do tilde.venv, just like that. Next, what I do is I open up my bash configuration file. So I say vim tilde.bash rc and shift to the bottom, go here, and we'll say bash virtual environment. So we'll just say source tilde/.venv bin activate. And again, this just makes it nice and clean so that I don't have to worry now about weird things happening with installing packages. And in fact, if I click on plus here, I can say new terminal, and look, it's sourcing that environment. Okay, so we're in good shape. I'm going to now cd into DevOps directory. And I guess the big takeaway here is to initially create a scaffold. I would recommend, if you're starting on a project, I would say every project should have something like this. Maybe it's unique to your organization, but for me, the three most important files would be that I create a make file, and I also create a requirements file, and then I have some kind of a test file, somewhere in my project, and we'll just call this, the source code file. We'll call this AWS CLI, and then we'll do a test AWS CLI, something like that. And if I click on this, I can also view things the same way. For the make file, what we can do is just copy like a template from something I've built in the past. And so I can just find, I don't know, like a recent make file. I'm sure I have one somewhere here, like PyTest or something. I can find there we go. And I typically just copy old make files. And the reason is it provides a unified interface for me to test my code. So notice here what we have an installation step. So I do a pip install, everything that's in requirements. I do some kind of a test here. In this case, we can change it to match this. So we can say test AWS CLI. And then we can also do formatting, and we also can do a linting as well. And we'll just change that to AWS CLI like that. Really, and that's pretty easy. We just set this up, and then if I go to requirements, let's install the common packages: PyTest, PyLint, and Python black for formatting. And notice right here, I can just do this. And we could even do the format at the very end, which is kind of a neat little trick, right? So if I just type in make all, my project's good to go. We've created the initial scaffolding for us. In this case, there's an error because there's no tests, right? So we're okay for now to leave this the way it is. So now that I've got the scaffolding, in order to build something that's, let's say, cloud specific, one of the things that we can set up is also the Boto3 tool. And so let's take a look real quick at Boto3. And what Boto3 is it's a unified interface for dealing with every single thing on AWS. And if we look at the available services, it's just staggering, like the amount of things available, and there's documentation on how to use it. So what we can do actually is put two tools here. We can do Boto3 and also IPython. Now the reason I like to use IPython with Boto3 is that if I don't know yet how to use their API, it's a good way to do it. So let's do a make install again. We'll say make install. Perfect. So now if I type in IPython, we see that I have the window and I can try out ideas, and I can import Boto3 like this. And Boto3 will allow me to do whatever it is I need to do. And in fact, probably one of the best things to play around with would be to use some kind of like AI services. So how do we find out what AI services? Well, let's go to AWS AI. Let's go to the console. This is how to find out services on AWS. You log in. And then if you just go to view all services here, we can look by category, and we could just find different services that we want to play with. Like, okay, we got SageMaker, we got Forecast, we got Transcribe, all kinds of cool, services. There's also in terms of comprehend, if we do comprehend, yeah, so basically these are all the ML services, everything from NLP to computer vision. One that I think would be interesting to play around with would be to maybe like translate things, right? So if we notice here that it has a just amazing amount of languages here, so that would be kind of a neat little tool to build as some kind of a real-time translation tool. And what we can do is actually import translate. So how would I find this service? Well, I would go to here, and I'd have to just go down to translate. So we'll go to translate, and let's see if it's easy to use. So how does it work? You do translate, and you make a client, and we can say translate text, and it looks like it's not too bad. Here's the text to translate. The text can contain 5,000 bytes, and it looks like something like this. So we can actually put this into our project under the README, and we can put some documentation that says like, how to use Boto3 and AWS to translate. And we can put in like a note like that, and then we can even put a link to the documentation as well, like Boto3 translate docs. I always like to keep notes for myself like this so that it's easy to go back and recreate what I did. There you go. Looks good. And we've got this here. And what I can do next here is just exit, do git status, and do a git add here, and then do a git commit, adding project scaffold. And then notice here that it's going to tell me, hey, fix your username. Sure, we can do that. I'll fix that real quick. And we can put in proper email address, go through here. And then we can amend. Perfect. Exit, get, push. There we go. So this should now show up in this repo, and we have the start of a scaffold. The process that I would recommend in building command line tools is to first start with the idea and try it out in IPython, and then move on to building a function, and then take that into a command line tool. So that's really the process. And we can even say, like, potentially just document this right here and say, let's go process for prototyping would be step 1. Try idea out in IPython. Step 2, make a function. Step 3, build a command line tool. And we'll use Python Fire, which is pretty nice command line tool library. There's Python Fire and there's Click. Those are my two favorite. And I'm going to use Fire because I think it fits well with what we're doing right now. So we got that documentation. So first up, I'll just go and I'll put in IPython here. So this will be the step 1, and we'll put some text in here. And what we can do is even maybe like grab something from AWS, like I don't know, like let's look at their documentation, and let's grab a little bit of text from AWS documentation, and let's go here and let's search for AWS Lambda, and let's just find some piece of documentation and translate it. So developer guide, here we go. Lambda is a compute service that lets you run code without provisioning or managing servers. Great. That's what I was looking for. All right, so we'll make this text equals that. And so we've got a sentence here. There we go. Now I want to make an instance of Boto3. So I want to say import Boto3. And then we need to look at the documentation and see that it looks like you need to make a client and you need to do a payload like that. It's kind of a big payload. Hopefully you don't need all of those, but you may. And we can read the documentation. It says the text to translate, so 5,000 bytes. Oh, it does say what's required. So text is required and source language is required. And target language is required. Okay, so it's going to give us, we need to do source, target, and text. All right, so let's go back to here, and we want to build out this payload. And what I might do to make things kind of easier is go to my source code file here and just code it up in a place where it's a little bit easier to code up. And so I'll even put some of these things that I'm doing here. So we'll take this, and then we'll take the text here as well. So I can use both things at the same time, both techniques. And in fact, we can do this. We can make this a triple quote, because then it'll look a little bit neater. And now we need to do the clients. And so we want to scroll to the top here, and we want to make a Boto3 client. So we'll go through here. There we go. There's our clients. And now we want to go to the payload, which is translate text. And we'll paste that in there. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so we need the text, which we can just pass in here. We've already passed that in. We've already made that. Terminology, we don't need that. Source code language we're going to need. We don't need this profanity filter. So we've got target language code. Now, what I don't know is the let's see here, is the name of this. Why is that? I'm missing, what did I take out? That looks good. Oh, we don't need that other bracket. That was the problem. There we go. And we can take this out. And we can put this text inside. Perfect. And for the source code, I think it's going to be Ian. I don't know. And let's actually read the documentation for whether they tell us what the actual language codes are here. So target language code. Okay, that's nice to know, but what are the target languages? List language. Provides a list of languages that it supports. Aha, here we go. Display language code. So let's go ENES. There we go, ENES. I guess we can be nice to people that are reading this in the future, and we can put the documentation here. Right, we can go like this, and we can say languages, API languages. Okay, so got that. So we're going to say en lowercase es. So in theory, we would just do this, put this inside there, and then put this inside there. And response gives us back a nice little response. Aha, look at this. Lambda es un servicio informático que le permite ejecutar código sin aprovisionar ni administrar servidores. My Spanish is pretty weak, but there we go. We got some Spanish, and let's go through here and put this in. Translated text. Excellent. So we have a nice little translation tool. Like we have the skeleton here for building that out, right? So this is how I like to just really quickly go from an idea to a prototype. So now that I've got this, I think a logical next step is to go, well, because I want to build a command line tool, does this code make sense to just sit inside of the same file as my command line tool? It makes it less flexible, and it means that it's less likely that I can build things with it in the future. And so what we need to do probably is build out a library. And so that's what I'll do next is I'll make a library. So we'll say make dir, and we'll call this AWS lib, like that. And I'll create an empty file inside, like that. And I'll also need to create my different modules. And so we can actually call this particular project that we're building translation. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say touch AWS lib translate. That looks decent. Let's just make sure I'm not going to cause any naming conflicts. Yeah, that probably will work fine. Okay. And then I can just take all this code and put it into my library. So let's pull it out and let's go to my library and let's go and put in translate. Nice. So we've got a nice little translation tool here set up. And now that it's in a library though, I also should make it in a package so that it's not just procedural code because it's like it's hard coded, right? That's the real, the point behind building functions is they're reusable, and I can put any text in, not just the hard coded text. So what I'll do is build out a function, and we'll call this translate, or how about translator? That looks good. It'll take text, and then we'll put in some doc strings here. So we'll say this uses AWS translate to translate text. Now, what we can do that's kind of cool is that we got some nice information. Where was it? A list of languages. And so we can even put these in, right? We can even put this display language code. Val. We can just do this. We can just say valid languages inside of our code like that. So that's nice, right? So if somebody looks at our function here, they can get the values, which are, for me, is always hard. It's like, hey, what do I do again? And then I could actually just take this out and potentially move this somewhere else, maybe even. And I guess I could just put this into the README as an example, example of text like that. And we'll just throw this in there so I don't lose it, but I can use it if I want to. There we go. Looks good. And if we go back here, I can put in this code. So we can just, in fact, just shift that over, and we're close here. Maybe put this like that, like that, like that, like that. And that looks pretty good. Does this look good as well? No, this looks a little bit off kilter. We want something like that. There we go. And then this would be what we're gonna get in return. So we also could let someone put in source and target, right? So we can translate anything. And so in this case, we could even set some defaults, which is not a bad idea as well, which is we could say source equals English, and then the target is equal to Spanish, like that. There we go. So we'll say source, and we'll go target like that, and then we'll say return response. And I guess if we wanted to add a little bit of debugging, not that we have to go too crazy here, but it wouldn't hurt, is to add a little debugging here. Later, this could be turned into like a log statement or something, is we could say, passed in source language like that. So that way we see what's getting passed in. And then we would say like the same thing for a statement passed in target language like that. And we'll do target. There we go. So we've got source, target, and now we've got actually something that works. And we could even make the response actually this. I think that's a better response, because we just want the result. We don't care about all the other metadata. If I was going to log it or something, maybe, but in this case, it looks pretty good. So now let's try out our tool. If we go back here, I can just go exit, type in IPython. And this again is how I like to test out a library, is that I would go through here and say from AWS lib dot translate import translator, and it should autocomplete for me, which is one of the nice things about IPython. And then I could say result is equal to translator, like that, and we just need to pass in a value for text, and we could just pass in today is sunny, is sunny and very hot. There we go. Passed in source language in, passed in target language Spanish, Español, and hoy está soleado y hace mucho calor. There we go. We got a nice little translation tool here. So this is, again, I think the most efficient possible way to prototype things is to do this style, right? This iterative style, statements to functions to then importing it into a library. So now that we've got all this, it should be trivial to build out a command line tool. And so what I'm going to do now is, look, that's I've already got all the work inside of IPython. I can just go to this and I can say first line is this from AWS, and then go to here, and we want that to be in there. And now I'm going to also need to find my my command line tool library. And so as I mentioned, the one that's really been growing on me is this tool called Python Fire from Google. And why I like it is it's amazing how simple it is, because you just do this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to install Fire. So let's go to the requirements and let's put in Fire like that. And now I can just say make install. And could I have found a version that satisfies the black from requirements? Let's see what version of Python this is. So this might be too old of a version to use. Python Black, which is fine. We can just get rid of that. We don't care about that. I'll just do that. We'll get rid of that. We'll go to requirements. That's a nice to have, not a must have tool. Okay, so we'll say make install. Okay, we got this thing running, and then to build a command line tool, it's amazingly simple. What I need to do is just do this, basically. And if I just put this inside, we just need to say translator like that, believe it or not. And we don't even need that, right? We can get rid of this. So this is the world's simplest command line tool, right? We need to say import Fire. That's why it's red. And then it's, just 4 lines of code. And let's save that. There we go. Now, why is that unexpected? Oh, I didn't put the closing brackets. There you go. Okay, now that we've got this, how do we run this thing? Well, first let's make it executable. So we'll say chmod plus x AWS CLI. And then let's put the statement up here, user bin env python. This just makes it so that the script knows that it should run in Python. And we just do this. We just do ./AWS CLI. We do -- help. And passed in source language. invalid syntax. Okay, let's check our code here. Oh, the problem is, look, I don't have Python virtual environment set up. I don't know why it didn't source this. And that could have been my problem with Python Black as well. Which Python? But regardless, this should fix it. There we go. No module in fire. So I didn't install everything. Make install. I was in a that exactly explains why we use virtual environment. Okay, and here we go. Help. Nice. Look at this. We got a nice little help menu here. This uses AWS Translate. Here's all the different values that you can use. And so we would just go through here and do, I believe, wait, let me look at the help again. What did it say? It said help. Use the flags. So I believe the flags would be source and target. Oh, okay, pretty easy. So we just do, well, actually, I don't think it's default, so I don't think we have to. We can just say it is hot today. Wow, hace calor hoy. Not bad. So if I want to change the language, which we can look at the source code and look at our languages, to French, we would just go here and change it to French. There we go. So really a kind of a shockingly awesome library here that you can build with Python Fire. And it takes your code and turns something that is potentially a little bit complex and makes it very simple. So the next step would be to now let's make this DevOps or production first mindset. So we're only missing a few little pieces to do that. I would say the first piece that we're missing is we need to double check that linting works. And so let's just do make lints. And the linting works, but look, we're only testing that tool. We need to also test our library as well. So we need to change the makefile. And we need to go here and tell it to also look at AWS lib. So let's go ahead and run that. Make lints. Still no problems. Great. Linting works. Now we need to build a little bit of a test infrastructure here. And it's a little bit complex though because of the fact that this is using API keys or roles. And so with AWS, one of the things that it does in Cloud9 is it allows you to not have to use API keys, which is great because it's role-based privileges. And this gets a little bit more complex when you're testing it, because then if you wanted to do a functional test, you would actually have to go through and mock it out, and it gets a little bit trickier. So what we can do here is basically use linting for now as our test, and that'll be like our gatekeeper. And with Python Fire, we don't really need to even test anything as well, because all it's doing is invoking our library that's existing. And so for the makefile, what we'll do for now is we'll just we'll keep that around for later. So now it's time to send it to continuous integration. And so I'll first need to check everything in, and we want to push this into our environment or our source code. So we'll say git add star, git commit, adding translate, git push. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now to GitHub, and we can find the GitHub repo by going git remote v. So it's going to be this one, DevOps 2022. And we can go to GitHub, and find this repo. There we go. And so we've got this, everything's inside of here, but we want to add continuous integration. The step to do that would be to go to GitHub Actions. And GitHub Actions is a really nice build system because it has all these integrations, and you can see it does a ton of different things. What we're going to do is we're going to build this out right here and build out a test infrastructure. So I typically just grab like an old one that I've had laying around. I think I've got one for PyTest here laying around. And there we go. Let's just grab that. And it puts it into a .github workflow. And we can actually take this and we could just grab it and put it into this file and just tweak it a little bit, because we're going to make things a little bit different. And so test it. Let's verify what version of Python we're on. I think it's 3.7. 3.7, yeah. So let's test the same version. So we'll say 3.7, like that. We want to do an install, right? We want to do a lint. For now, the test will be a no op, and we don't want to do the format. Okay, let's start the commit. And let's see if it builds. I'm always skeptical the first time I do a build, it will work, but we're about to find out. There we go. Okay, everything worked, and we can just take the status badge, copy it, put it in our project. There we go. We got continuous integration. So really fairly straightforward, even with things like that have dependencies like, API keys to get at least a lint in there, right, as the start. It's always a good strategy to do something is better than nothing and just get it working. And now it's constantly going to be testing our code and making sure that at least, syntax problems don't show up. And we could build, unit tests and things like that later. But I think this is a great style for using continuous integration with AWS, and we did it inside of Cloud9. So let's go and build it a little bit further. What else can we do inside of here that will be kind of cool? So I think the way to build even more stuff would be, let's try another thing, right? Let's go through here and let's find out what other services that we think are kind of cool. And so again, I'll just look at AWS and let's find something kind of fun. How about forecasts? What can we do with this? Easily build forecasting models. Let's try it out real quick. I don't know how complex the forecast is from the API. That might be too tricky. I think for sure that comprehend is an easy one. So if I go to comprehend, what it can do is do all kinds of things like entity extraction, key phrases, things like that. So what we could do is we could build another library that it finds key phrases from Wikipedia. That's kind of a fun one, and we use AWS Comprehend for that. So let's go ahead and build that real quick. In order to do that, I'll add two requirements, or one requirement. We'll call it Wikipedia. Okay. And then we'll do a make install. And then I need to make a new library file for our new lib. So we'll call this AWS lib, and we'll call this one wiki phrases. There we go. And so I can use kind of the same technique here, right, which I did before. which is first get the Wikipedia stuff cooking. So from import Wikipedia, Wikipedia dot summary, and we can say Golden State Warriors. Perfect. We got some text in there, and I think I even can do more or less sentences, but we don't want to go too fancy here. I'm just going to go for speed, and we'll say import Wikipedia. Similarly, I'm going to do what I did over here, import Boto3. Import Boto3. We'll need to do clients, which would be, we need to now look at the docs. And the docs from Boto3, I can just pull up another Boto3 docs. Let's go to Boto3. Let's look at comprehend. There we go. Got comprehend. And then we have to look at the way the payload works. So we want to do phrases, detect key phrases. Looks pretty simple, thankfully. And we can just put something like that in. And we just put some text in here. So text, or we don't even need to do that. We can actually move very, very quickly here. Right, this looks good. And so I can just make an instance of this. So I can say, did I import Boto3? I forgot if I did. No, I didn't. I need to import Boto3. Import Boto3, make a client, and then for that, this needs to be text. Like that. And did I put this into, so I need to go like this, and I need to make this into text, right? And then, why is that giving me a bug? Undefined variable text. Oh yeah, because I haven't defined it yet. But in here it will work. Response. Wow, pretty simple. And what we can do is, it gave me a whole list of things. We care about just that, key phrases. So we want to do response, key phrases. There we go. And so we could even clean this up a little bit, because we could build a function that that basically collects it for us. So we could say def collect phrases. Like, I don't want all that other stuff in there. And we'll just say phrases. And we can say for item in phrases, like this. And then we need to put a container here. So I say all phrases, like that. And then we would say all phrases dot append. And we just say item is equal to phrases text, like that. So just grab all the text out of here. And that looks pretty good. And then return all phrases. Okay, that looks good. Undefined variable all, no, that works. So if I go here and I say phrases equals, and then I do, woo. Well, this shows one of the limitations. Sometimes when you paste into IPython, it can be kind of weird. This may not work. Didn't work exactly how I wanted. So I can just kind of backport this. I can just exit and just import it itself. And so in this case, we can just say text is equal to this, just to make it not blow up. So we'll say IPython from wiki phrases, or from AWS lib dot wiki phrases imports collect phrases. There you go, collect phrases. So there's some kind of an issue. So I'm gonna get out of this, and I'm gonna just make it more simple, which is let's just let's actually just say everything I want to do. So say import Wikipedia, and we'll do Wikipedia dot summary Golden State. In fact, do I even have that handy, or does it? I guess by the time I search for it, it'll be longer than me typing it. But Golden State Warriors, like that, and then we just pass that text in, and then if we want, so we can actually run this as a script. So we can just cd into AWS lib and just do Python wiki phrases. Does that work? Okay, so that looked like it worked, and then we could just say prints collect phrases and texts, or no, client. This is going to return back client, and it's going to be response. We might be able to look at that from here. What was the response here? Too bad we don't know what that object is, but we'll do it one at a time. We'll just say prints client, and we'll see what comes out of this. So let's print out the client. Boto core comprehend. No, we want to print the response. The response. There we go. Print the response. There we go. So we want, what is that thing called? It's called key phrases. We want that. So now we just say prints collect key phrases response key phrases, like that. There you go. That looks, in theory, like that would work. That should be a square bracket. Okay. Unexpected in a file. I don't know why that's saying that. Oh, I need one more. There you go. So we say list indices must be integers or slices, not string. Must be integers or not slices, not string. So I think just because for time or whatever, we'll make it simple. we'll just do this. Here you go. We'll do key phrases, and let's just print that out. And we don't need that. We just say response key phrases. Perfect. Slicing lists is always fun. Okay, we got key phrases. We got this. So I'm going to now convert this into a function, which should be pretty easy. We'll go key phrase key phrases, and we'll just have name is right here, and then we just put all this inside. So we just return this. So we'll say return key phrases response, and we just shift these over. So shift this over, 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 shift this over. This is looking, and we'll do one more. Looks pretty good. There we go. And we'll say returns back. Oh, am I indenting too much? There we go. Well, the Python indentation problem is always annoying. You're like, wait, which do I do? How much indentation do I do? There we go. Too much indentation. And then we just say key phrases. Comprehend and Wikipedia. There we go. Perfect. We got this working. And then in theory, we could just link it into here. And one way you can do that is by AWS or Python Fire. You can do like a fancier way of building a command line tool. So we can put 2 examples. So let's do that. Let's try to do. Let's copy how they do things. Let's see if we can get that to work. So we'll call this AWS. AWS. How about that? And then we'll call like AWS tools. And then we can do in this case, we'll call this AWS. And then for this, we just need to do another import, AWS lib dot wiki phrases imports phrases, right? Is that what I called it? Key phrases, like that. And so I think we could just do source target, and we'll call this one translate. It's a little bit trickier to figure out exactly what they are wanting me to do, but I don't know if I can name them the same thing. But we could translator service, or I don't know, like that. And then if we return back the translator, yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit tricky to put all that inside of there. So I'll abort here, because that we know that worked, and I'll just make another tool, which is probably even easier, and we can just say CP AWS CLI. Let's go up one directory here, CP AWS CLI, and we'll call this AWS CLI 2. Let's just be very boring, and let's open up the second one, and it should be really simple. We just swap this out. We say AWS wiki phrases import key phrases. There we go. And then we just say key phrases. I like this better. It's the less complex. There we go. And now do the same stuff. We go chmod plus X. If AWS CLI 2, it might already be chmoded, but here we go. CLI 2 dash help Does it work? It's doing something. I don't know if that's good. Oh, I didn't do that. There you go. Key phrases. Something's weird about our service. I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe the environment's acting weird or something. But in a nutshell, that's the idea here, is that building different little tools, putting them into command line tools. This is a great way to make a lot of progress quickly. And inside of here, I can just add these in. And now we have a couple different tools. Adding a comprehend tool.